Not everybody likes a ginger. Most people don't. She's like, no, I can't believe that. It's funny, when a woman is with you, she'll actually think all other women will want to be with you. And so just start with somebody that you don't find attractive at all. Go talk to men, and then you talk to somebody who's a little bit more attractive, Progressive desensitization works for everybody. But most men, I would say, who are good men, they'll fall into this interview mode. So just overshare, and then when she starts talking, cool, then ask her questions, and then you want to have a ping pong. But I always recommend just start the conversation with a compliment. It's win-win. If you had more options, you wouldn't care because you want the day to go well, but you don't need it to go well.
David, what's up, man? Great to see you. It's been a while.
Likewise, Ryan. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation. I was actually looking at some statistics, and I've seen this even just over the past couple of months of they're a bit alarming and they're also a bit disturbing. And I think the statistics that we see in declining rates of men dating, men getting married, and even having men having kids is not just a individual problem. I actually think it's a societal problem that we might be facing as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's macro and micro. I always come from it from an individual perspective because I think individual responsibility is the most important component. But society at large, of course, men are not necessarily encouraged to go and introduce themselves. There's a lot of barriers. Social media can be a great tool, or if used passively, people swipe right, they don't get the results they want, and then their self-esteem plummets because they think they're not desirable.
Yeah, well, and that's actually a good way to segue into one of the statistics that I saw. And this one's more anecdotal. You probably have the data to back this up, but it seems like I remember seeing something like 90% of the women are pursuing 10% of the men. It's probably even worse than that. It's probably 95% of the women on these dating apps, or maybe just in life, are pursuing 10 to 5% of the men out there, which makes it really intimidating for a lot of guys.
Yeah, I don't have the exact data on it, but it's probably 80-20, 90-10, 95-5, 100%. But on dating apps, first of all, what I say to guys is you're not competing with most men. Yeah, there are some men that are genetically gifted beyond belief. They can have average pictures, and because they're 6'4" and perfect looking, they're going to get better results. That's just a matter of fact. But if you just get really good pictures taken, professional pictures, good outfits, you build a good profile, you can get good results. Now, I do say as a disclaimer, there are some men, and this is going to sound horrible, who are just, their face is objectively not that attractive looking, okay?
You're talking about me. I get it. Just say it, man. Yeah, just come out and say it.
How could you with that hair color?
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
No, but I think there are some men who are just genetically not that fortunate for whom dating apps won't work. That's a fact. Like, it would be a lie to say they work for everybody. I would say for most men, they work, they can find a quality relationship from them. But these other guys, they just have to rely on in-person approaches. Because if you're very charismatic and very confident, you can talk away your face, so to speak. So I'm a big fan of believing that we're in the best times ever, but there are challenges at large. But dating apps are a tool like a spoon. A spoon doesn't work for me because I can't cook with it. I don't know how to use it, but that doesn't mean that spoons as a whole don't work. And dating apps also, those apps, they're engineered to give you short-term, quick dopamine spikes, but not necessarily in a way to... what's the purpose of these apps? To make money. Okay, how do you make money? By getting a lot of users onto the platform and keeping them on the platform. What are the most important users? Women, just like nightclubs. Women get in for free and then men follow, right? So they want to provide the best experience for women. How do they do that? They're trying to match women with men who are on the same level. Now, who gets to determine that? Everybody has an invisible account score associated with their profile. How many women swipe right on you, for example, or who swipes right on you determines your account score. So they're trying to match each other up. And then if you don't have a good profile, for example, your first picture is not that great, your facial expressions are a bit off, you can actually engineer it authentically and yet still effectively. If you don't do that, then your account score goes low and you wonder, first of all, I don't even think the woman that I want is on dating apps. Well, she exists in the real world and a lot of them also exist on dating apps. But we have to be so careful to not tie up our self-esteem in our dating app results because they say nothing about our desirability as a man. And I think most men, they are good men, kind men, right, to varying levels of success, but they're working on themselves, but their communication of themselves is not that great. And you know that you can have a great product. If it's not marketed well, it'll die on the shelf.
Yeah, I think dating apps, well, probably just even approaches in real life are nothing more, and at least initially, than an indicator in your ability to play the game that's being played. You know, whether it's approaching somebody you think is attractive out in public or on a dating app, it seems like you've got to know the rules. Otherwise, you're not even going to give yourself a chance. But I have this fear that too many men think it should just work, or it should just happen, or it should be so organic that all of this stuff isn't necessary. But there's no other aspect of life a man actually believes that.
Yeah, exactly. It should just come to me. The right one will find you eventually. And I don't think it's men's fault. It's just what we're taught. Just be yourself and the right one will find you. That's like saying just be yourself and the right job or the right business will find you. It won't. Something will find you, and eventually you'll settle for something because we'll get sick of being alone. Because Tony Robbins says we're going to sacrifice our values to meet our needs. And my value might mean I want somebody who's physically attractive. I want to be respected in a relationship. I don't want to feel like I have to walk on eggshells around that person. I want freedom. I want connection and care. Those are my values. That's what I value in a relationship. But I'm going to sacrifice that because I have a need for love and connection. Something is better than nothing. And most men, you know that better than anybody, don't spend enough time with other men, and how important quality male contact is. They don't have that. And then they go on a date and they go, oh, this has to work right now because they're so starved of love. It's just their need for love and connection isn't met. And that's why I always say, spend time with quality male friends. Get a lot of dates, right? Use dating apps, Instagram approaches. I can give some tactics here in a minute to break down how easy it actually can be, because it's not that overwhelming and anybody can do it. But you need a lot of quality dates to choose the right person from, and time with quality male friends. You know that some of the happiest times we've spent outside of it being in a relationship with a woman is just having fun with the boys. It can be working out together. It can be, it doesn't even matter what it is. And you just talk nonsense, and it's probably one of the best things for our brain.
Yeah, definitely. Well, like like you said, working out, hunting, going to the game, you name it. But what do you think is the biggest driver in some of these challenges that men are having? I imagine a lot of it is intimidation. That one blows my mind a little bit. It's wild to me that men can't approach, or I shouldn't say they can't, that they won't, and they're so afraid. I think they've made the fear of rejection this big monster that it really isn't.
Yeah. And again, I don't think it's their fault. They just haven't had a role model. There's only two things when it comes to approaches: the skill of doing it, and then there's approach anxiety, nervousness, AA, approach anxiety, right? And the only reason men fear rejection is because they haven't gotten enough. So they overwhelm themselves because they see somebody who's truly physically attractive, and then they think they have to be able to go and start a conversation with her. But that's subjectively overwhelming. In that moment, they can't. They could, but would they? They won't. And what they have to do is they have to progressively desensitize themselves. Can you go and speak to somebody who you don't find that physically attractive? Somebody you really don't find physically attractive. How high is your approach anxiety then? No. But it's just a mental error. Again, 80% of success in anything is mindset. You think, oh, I'm going to have to go and talk to her. No, you can't right now. Subjectively, Gunther Schmidt, one of Germany's best psychologists, he talks about it all the time. Subjectivity, our subjective experience, which is something we prime at any given point in time, is something that's created. And subjectivity is everything. And so it may be for one person, but not for another, because of the state that I'm in right now. How many wins I've had over the last couple of months, my whole dating and relationship history, whether I've had full role models or not. And so just start with somebody that you don't find attractive at all. Go talk to them, and then you talk to somebody who's a little bit more attractive, Progressive desensitization works for everybody, but we got to do the work. And I see this with clients all the time. They say, yeah, well, I still have approach anxiety. Did you do progressive desensitization? It's explained. No, I didn't. Okay. Anybody can do it. You might not be able to go and talk to that 8 out of 10 right now. You might not be able to do that. But can you talk to a 2 out of 10, subjectively, in your opinion? Yeah, you're probably going to be able to do that and wish that person a great day and share some positivity. People lack momentum because we're so isolated. And again, it's easy to blame society. And there's definitely factors there. But the only thing we can do is assume an individual responsibility and say, there's nothing wrong with me. It's not my fault. It just is what it is. But today I will start socializing. And then we feel at home in the world. We do one little step. And then there's the skill set. Because if there's very few openers in person that you can't use. The opener doesn't work. But if you ask her, do you have a boyfriend? That's probably one of the very few stupid things that you shouldn't say as an opener, right? which is like, you wouldn't want to come talk to me, would you? Now, then again, if you said it the right way, that's probably a way to do that.
Yeah, if you said it in a funny way or something, you could probably pull that one off.
Exactly. Yeah, if you do it in a funny way, witty way, but that takes a lot of skill. So it's just easy to say during the day, for example, you see somebody at Starbucks, say, excuse me 2 seconds, I saw you, you're really cute. I had to come and say hi. At night, it can be a little bit more fun, a little bit more playful, but I always recommend just start the conversation with a compliment. It's win-win. And if she doesn't want to talk to you, you leave her alone immediately, no problem. But 9 out of 10 rejections will actually be super nice. Women would say, I'm actually married, but thank you so much. That really made my day. If you just seek to add a little bit of positivity and you get into that momentum, it is, Ryan, an evolutionary hack to just talk to people in person in a kind and respectful way and to just be a little bit smart about it, because almost nobody does it. We could, but we don't. And if you do it, you realize what an abundance of options there is. And the biggest mistake men make is they choose from scarcity. They stumble into one relationship, into the next, without choosing consciously, without going through a phase of comparing their options. And so they need to just do progressive desensitization, talk to just people in general, and somebody who's gradually more attractive, gradually more attractive, gradually more attractive, and then work on the skill set. And there's free resources and paid resources for that.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying makes so much sense. I just wonder for men that have a hard time approaching that, part of the issue also might be that they're so vested in what this imaginary future could potentially be before they even get a woman's number, for example. They're worried about, oh, should I marry her? And could she be the one? And could she be the mother of my children? It's like, whoa. Like, why don't you get her number first? See if you can start with that. Or even on a first date, like, you don't have to worry about getting laid or getting in a long-term relationship. Just see if you like her, and vice versa. See if she likes you.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it comes back to abundance. They put her on a pedestal. It's like in business, you only have this one deal. Well, you're not going to negotiate as well. You're applying for a job. This is the only offer you have. You're not going to negotiate as well. You'll need it a lot more. People say, I really love her. I think I love her. I have a crush on her. She's it, That's the same thing as saying you go on a 28-day fast and somebody dangles a steak in front of you. You will believe you're in love with that steak. Look, I love that steak. That steak is my steak. No, you're starved, right? If you had more options, you wouldn't care because you want the day to go well, but you don't need it to go well. Women need to feel that you want them, but that you don't need them. And men pedestalize. But if they just take more action, they approach one person, they use more dating apps, they use Instagram, and they need a structure also. What I tell people is block time in your calendar. Sounds stupid. Block a little bit of time, 15 minutes a day for dating apps. Ideally, 2 times 7 minutes or something because you want to sign in twice a day, but it doesn't have to be an hour. And then block time every week to go and socialize. We used to live in tribes where we were around 100, 200 people all the time. We're not meant to be alone. And when you socialize, something really interesting happens. You notice that the world isn't as bad a place as media makes it out to be, because we hear all these things in the news, but then we look around the reality and we're like, seems fine.
Yeah. Things look pretty good.
Yeah, most people, is my core belief, I may be wrong with this, but I believe most people are good people. And if you talk to them and you have more positive interaction points, you'll feel at home in the world. Wayne Dyer said that Albert Einstein once said, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but that one of the most important decisions we make in life is whether we live in a friendly or a hostile universe. And I think that's a decision we have to make over and over again because there is evil in the world. But if I focus on that, I'll attract more of that. Not in a woo way, but because I'll unconsciously start exhibiting certain micro-expressions that have people respond differently. I've been going out for many, many years. I don't drink, I take no drugs, nothing, right? And so with clients or by myself, I haven't gotten in a fight since I started going out. I trained karate for many years. I'm well capable of it, of physical violence, but I avoid it at all costs. I don't want it. And there have been a couple of close encounters, but I'm really disarming. I'm really looking for ways to not get into those situations. And if you just talk to people more and you offer a little bit of value, one compliment, and now here's a real tactical point for guys, you have to overshare. Because in a business setting, what we learn as men is that if people are supposed to like you, you ask them a lot of questions. Ask them questions. That doesn't work with women, because if you talk to a woman anywhere, you have to get permission, implicit permission to be asked to even ask that question. Imagine a homeless person comes up to you and starts asking you, so what do you do for work? Do you come here often?
Yeah, who are you? Not interested.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know you. I don't know if I can trust you. So, but instead, I'm not sure if you've had this. If a homeless person comes up to you, comes up to you and starts sharing, so this is my story, and they start just sharing, you're like, oh, all of a sudden there's a little bit of a connection, and you're much more willing to want to give to them, even though both homeless people are probably equally deserving of love and support. But the one person just overshare a little bit instead of asking me questions. Hey guys, so what happened is they'll tell a story. Well, that's what we need to do. We need to assume the burden of the conversation in the beginning. Most guys, they run out of things to say, and then they start stacking one question after another. And if you do that after an approach, even just 2.5, 3 questions, she's already zoned out. So just overshare. Just any question you have. So instead of what do you do for work, you look like a lawyer. Oh, instead, even if you're wrong, it doesn't matter. It's more emotionally engaging first. Like, what do you mean? Well, it's like you have a really cool balance between elegant and yet still cool. Okay, something. It's not the line, but just make it more playful. Yeah.
It is a little counterintuitive, I think, for most people, because we always hear the adage of, don't make it about yourself and be humble and all of these things that we grew up, even outside of the dating space, that we grew up adopting as, don't make yourself the center of the universe. And I don't think that's what you're saying, but I imagine a lot of men interpret what you're saying that way, and it feels really awkward. Well, the other day on one of our group calls with our men, I had asked guys to share their strengths. It is amazing how difficult it is for men to share what they're good at. They can talk about what they're bad at all day long, no issue, especially in a group like that. But when you start asking, what are you good at? It's like crickets.
Yeah, because we've learned that people celebrate for us when we're not doing so good, then they're there for us. But when things go really well for us, very few people want to see us win. And you're right, it's absolutely not about us becoming the center of the universe and being selfish or narcissistic or egotistical. No. You just want to assume the burden conversation until she starts talking. The second she starts sharing, then you let her. Then you ask questions. But remember, this is not a speed dating setup. This is a spontaneous, organic situation in a Starbucks, on the street, in a bar, if you wanted to, wherever it happens to be. She doesn't know you. She doesn't owe you any of her time. So for her to get to the hook point, as it's called, where she starts emotionally investing in you, you have to offer something. And what you offer in the beginning could be a compliment, and then maybe a little bit of a story. Yeah, I was just actually about to go shopping because my mom is visiting and we're going to buy some dairy-free chocolate. And then you open up, this is really important, different conversational hook points in the hope that she can relate to one of the 3, and then it's ping pong. But you only do that until she starts sharing. And then obviously you're going to be interested in her. But for the first 5 to 10 minutes, you have to assume the burden of the conversation. You can't just put her into an interview mode. Women actually hate it. Yeah, some women say, I went on this date with this guy and all he did was talk about himself. Yeah, but you dated him for 2 months though. You didn't reject him after the first date. So that evidently wasn't what it is. Because yes, maybe that guy was lacking genuine interest and comfort and reassurance. But most men, I would say, who are good men, they'll fall into this interview mode. So just overshare. And then when she starts talking, cool, then ask her questions. And then you want to have a ping pong. But again, assuming the burden of the conversation, that concept is what it's called. That's super important in the beginning. Yeah.
I want to go back to something you said. It was that quote, and I'm paraphrasing, but you either live in a hostile world or a healthy world. It was something like that. And one of the things that I think I'm seeing more and more of, especially as it relates to dating, is a level of bitterness and pessimism around dating, the process of dating, and directly aimed at women themselves. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are very bitter towards women as a whole. Yeah.
And what do you, is that just past experience they're basing it on? Is it cultural programming? I mean, you have the rise of the incels and these types of movements where, marriage is horrible and it's an evil institution and men are getting taken advantage of. And I'm not saying that stuff doesn't exist. Sure, it does. But that's, like you were talking about earlier, when you actually go out in the real world, it's not really so prevalent as you might hear it otherwise.
I think so our brain distorts, deletes, and generalizes. Whenever we have some experience, we tend to make a generalization out of it to categorize life to be able to function. And that's helpful in some ways, but we can also rob ourselves of the experience of life. Some men have had very bad experiences with women in the past, where they lost half of their shit in a divorce, or they got screwed over very badly. And women have the same story of suffering, by the way.
Sure.
But then we go and generalize. And I believe whenever we generalize towards any particular group, yeah, there are trends for sure that we need to be aware of. But whenever we say this group, whatever group it may be, is, well, then we neglect humanity, because a group of millions of people is never one thing. There are trends that you want to be aware of, but it's never one thing. And so a lot of that is past experiences. But do you know what I think it really is? It's mindset, it's social media, and to be honest, it's just loneliness. If they were to actually engage more with the world, a lot of that would subside. Tony Robbins says, stay in your head and you're dead. Because if we think about what it will be like, I'm not sure if you've ever had this. This is very silly. I don't have a car in Dublin. I just Uber every day, right? So I was in Germany and I rented a car, and it was funny. I was going for a walk and I was already thinking about what it would be like to drive again, because I hadn't driven in a while. And a part of me, there was a little bit of fear. Not necessarily that I was mega afraid of it, but I was like, am I going to be able to drive? I'm going to crash, because I wanted to get a fast car, because Germany, there's parts of the Autobahn where you can go as fast as you want. Not even fear, but I was like overthinking it. And then when I was actually sitting in the Porsche Cayenne driving 249 kilometers an hour, it wasn't a problem at all. There was no issue. Yeah, there was adrenaline, but it's no problem. But if we think about a situation, we make it out to be so much worse. In karate, when I was fighting, or in judo, if you anticipate it, there's a lot of fear. When you're in it, yeah, there is pain. But the fear, there's adrenaline, but it's never as bad. Not never, but it's almost never as bad as you think it is. Even a rejection. I've gotten rejected more times than most guys ever made love to themselves. That's really true. It's genuinely true. And most of them are fine. Some really hurt. We're like, ginger, right? You're like, oh, wow. That was
I'm sure,
hell, dude, right? And that could make you pessimistic. But if you have the right mindset, the right coaches, or somebody telling you, that's just statistics. Because if you talk to 20 women, for example, 1 or 2, and you do a decent job, not amazing, not terrible, a decent job, 1 or 2 are going to really like you. 1 or 2 are going to wish AIDS and cancer upon you and your family. And the rest is kind of a bell curve distribution. Yeah, somewhat good, some not so good. But it takes a lot more volume than people think. And by the way, this is an experience I wish for all men to have. Go, sounds crazy, most men will never do this. And you don't have to do what I'm telling you to get into a quality relationship. But as a transformative exercise, go and do 20 to 30 approaches in one night or one day. What happens to you is you will fall in love twice. As in, you'll be like, oh, wow, her, I really like her. You do 70 more approaches. No, I really like her. And you forgot about the first. Most men never have that experience in such a short period of time. So they fantasize about the same woman from work, from the sauna place, whatever, for months or years to come. You can tighten that experience and realize it is never the individual. It's the experience you crave. Marshall Rosenberg, he founded something called nonviolent communication. And is a really powerful system. He says that any psychological need we have, for example, the one for love and connection, can be met independently of any particular person. You never need one person. Everybody can be replaced. Sounds horrible, but it's actually a beautiful fact of life. So you can decide how long we want to keep suffering, but it takes a lot more volume. You need to meet a lot more women than you initially thought to find somebody you're compatible with. And if you actually, most men will never do this. And again, as I said, you don't have to do this if you want to find a relationship. But as an experiment, if you talk to 20, 30 women in one day, you'll fall in love twice and you realize, oh, it was never her that I craved. It was the experience of it. You want the sensation. And most men get stuck on one woman far too long. They pedestalize her. Jordan Peterson says they project an ideal onto her that isn't even her. And so abundance is always the answer. Get more options and then choose from her and say, I don't need her. I want to see whether we're compatible or not. And as you were saying, there's compatibility and then there's communication skills. Compatibility regarding personality, values, intellect, physical attractiveness, and how much genuine burning desire she has for us. Because some women will want you a 5 out of 10. Some women will want you 9 or 10 out of 10. You want to be with a woman who has a lot of desire for you. There's some women who will look at me like, yeah, he's all right. And Fernanda, my fiance, we've been with 5.5 years, she really likes me. She couldn't imagine that women would reject me. I'm like, well, I appreciate that, but I live in objective reality. It happens all the time. Guess what? I teach this, right? But not everybody likes a ginger. Most people don't. She's like, no, I can't believe that. It's funny, when a woman is with you, she'll actually think all other women will want to be with you. I should let her live in that delusion, to be honest, right? But I tell her, I was like, it's actually not.
You can appreciate it, but it's not reality, right?
Exactly. But genuine burden desire is one. And then there's communication skills in terms of creating attraction, building a connection. And that's just a skill set anybody can learn, because you can break charisma. You can break that down to the behavioral level. Volume, eye contact, certainty in your voice. You can break all of it down to a behavioral level, and then it takes the crazy element out of it. You can systematize it and structure it really nicely, actually. And then, again, it's not about lines. I'm not a fan of say this line and she'll love you. No, it's a framework, and then you fill it with authenticity.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I appreciate most about your work, because there are a lot of accounts and a lot of people out there who would fall into the pickup artist camp, I would say. And I've never seen you portray or present any of your information in a way that came off as manipulative or douchey, for lack of a better term. It's all very genuine, although you are trying to, I wouldn't say engineer. I think that has too much of a manipulative context, but you are trying to help men put their best foot forward in an authentic way.
Yeah, 100%. And I believe you can say what's true in an effective way or in an ineffective way. So there's radical honesty, and most men have to become a lot more radically honest. Not that they're consciously lying, but they agree when they don't feel like agreeing. They smile when they don't feel like smiling. When I was getting married to my ex-wife on the day of the wedding, I was smiling to a lot of people, even though I didn't feel like smiling. And I was exhausted the next day and I had a panic attack. Right? So it's not good. Faking shit doesn't work. And I believe, by the way, I would be curious to hear your definition. What is your definition of manipulation versus influence? How do you differentiate the two?
I only differentiate the two because there is a negative connotation with manipulation. So what I would suggest is that manipulation is deceit in order to extract something on a very selfish basis at the other person's expense. Versus influence would be me communicating in a certain way, presenting myself in a certain way for the mutual benefit of both of us.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's very close to what I have. The way I look at it is, I'm not an expert in physics. I have a friend, he did his master's in physics, and he says that in physics, the word manipulation and influence is actually the same thing. You manipulate the curve of the ball. Manipulation and influence, same thing. You enforce power onto something, and then you change the direction. And so from that perspective, you could say manipulation and influence are the same. But not really. We all feel very different about the word manipulation as opposed to influence. So what is it? And one is intent. I think, do I, to the best of my ability, influence this person now to only get something and I don't care what happens to them? Or do I look for a win-win? Or do I look for just win for them? I think as long as it's win-win, we'll always try to change behavior. That's influence and manipulation. Both will try to change behavior. But one is intent, and then the other one is that kind of ties into those actual consequences. How does it impact them? Am I going to withhold information to, as you're saying, extract something and I don't care what happens to them? If is a parent manipulating their child? Well, no, because they have good intent. Manipulation is, I just want to have intimacy with as many women as possible and I don't care what happens next. No, I'm on a date and I want to present myself in a way where you like me, right? I'm trying to change your behavior to like me. Now, there's nothing wrong with that unless, or as long as there's mutual win-win in mind. And I think that intent shines through in the end. You can't fake that for too long. That comes out in the wash over the years. If you actually have good intent, and especially with social media, people are filming each other all the time. Now, everybody can get angry at times. Everybody can have a weak moment. That's not what it's about. We're all human, 100%. But intent really shines through. Are you somebody who's selfish, just trying to scam people the whole time, or with women, or you genuinely care? That is influence. So no, I don't believe in manipulation because I don't believe in pretending to be somebody you're not. I think you should be effective in your communication, but you can, again, say what's true effectively and ineffectively.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a really good friend. You may know him, Tanner Guzzi. Does that ring a bell to you?
May have seen, not sure.
Yeah, he owns an organization called Masculine Style, and he's very focused on helping men improve the way they look, their appearance, how they present themselves. And he gets the same thing. Oh, you're just trying to manipulate people. He's like, no, what I'm trying to do is take who this individual is and show it in a way that's able to be received by other people. And all of us do this on a daily basis. When we get up, you put a shirt on, and you put that particular shirt on for a reason. You thought you looked good at it. You thought the woman at the bank that you're going to would like it. You did it for a reason. And so when you pretend like you're not doing that, you're actually lying to yourself anyways. Like, we all wear things. We buy the cars that we buy. We have our house decorated the way we have it for a reason. Just make sure it's authentic. Just make sure it's genuine to who you actually are, and put your best foot forward.
Exactly. And then people say, well, that's manipulation. Wait, are you saying it's only authentic if this guy dresses like shit or his beard isn't on point? What, that's authentic? Or, oh, you're only authentic if you're very humble as a person. I don't think being humble is any more authentic than being confident. Now, there is such an extreme of confidence called delusion. And if you pair that with selfishness, then you can call it narcissism. That exists for sure. But it's no more authentic to be confident as opposed to fake humble. Humility is fake in a lot of ways. I think there's real humility, which is taught through martial arts, for example. Like, I did karate and judo. I remember I was a 12-year-old child, and I was wrestling, sparring in a judo match with a 14-year-old girl. She was 2 levels higher than me. I had a yellow belt, yellow-orange, and she had a green belt. And we were fighting and we were wrestling, and it went into overtime. And eventually, she throws me over her head. Some called tomoe-nage, if I don't remember. And then I fly through the air and I land on my back. Ippon, boom, she wins immediately. And I'm like there, 11, 12 years old, crying my eyes out. And my parents are there, and they're not making excuses. They're like, hey, you fought well. Good job. You fought well. Yeah, guess what? And you lost. You know?
Yeah.
And that's great. That's real humility. Real humility is saying, I respect you as a person. And I was very lucky. I've had amazing parents. My mom, she's visiting me in Dublin right now. She's the kind, both my parents, they're so kind. They don't care about status at all. Really. They don't give a shit whether somebody's the waiter or is you. They don't care at all, which I think is amazing. Because real humility means, do I care about human beings? That's intent. Do I like people? And then there's context-specific humility. So I think that's great. But a lot of men, they're walking around thinking they're not allowed to be confident. No, you're allowed to speak with certainty. You're allowed to speak well of yourself, as long as you want everybody else to win too. It's not just, I'm better than you. Yeah, let's win together, right? I'm good and I want you to feel great too. That's why I think the men that you do, the work that you do with men is also so important. Men need that support network of other men encouraging each other. Men hear so few words of encouragement from other men, right? And you know that. Somebody says one thing to us, one compliment, and we think about that shit for the rest of the day.
Oh man, no, it is interesting because you learn to desensitize yourself from it a little bit, but that stuff never goes away. Like, it's always there and it's always present, and it needs to be offset with something. I do like also that you talk about this idea of radical honesty. And I think that is an element of being humble that I don't always see it the same way, that I might see things differently. But I imagine the biggest issue for men when it comes to honesty about what they want and need, or maybe it's a political difference of opinion or a cultural difference of opinion, is losing the one or letting this one get away. But that's that scarcity mindset, I imagine, versus, hey, I should probably share my political and cultural views because I want to know on date number 1, not date number 40.
Yeah, 100%. Radical honesty. And by the way, disclaimer, I'm not perfect. That's something I'm working on every day as well. It's not like I'm great now. And then, for example, Sam Harris, who I disagree with on a lot of things, who I still respect as a human being immensely. He's an amazing, I disagree with him on a lot of things. No need to get into the particulars. But he wrote an amazing book called Lying. And he basically says, you should never lie, ever. Don't even tell your kids Santa Claus exists. Now you can have a nuanced discussion around that. But radical honesty is something I'm working on as well. Anybody who says, I never lie, full of shit, right? So, because we all make small mistakes here and there, but then it's a real effort to just say what it is. Because with my ex-wife, I didn't communicate my needs. And radical honesty is a screening mechanism for compatibility. If you say, I hate XYZ, I love XYZ, if you bond over what you dislike almost as much or more than what you like. So you should bring that up and you should communicate that unapologetically. If you're afraid to lose her because your values are in line, guess what? You're supposed to lose her. This is not going to be your wife. If you don't agree on politics or religion, she won't be your wife. If you don't agree on politics or religion, that person's not going to be your business partner. And then you have to realize, as much as you can live in the world, as we talked about earlier, and wish beings well, as Jack Kornfield says, and look for kind interaction points with a lot of people. You also have to understand that 9 out of 10 people you don't want to have in your life closely. Not because there's anything wrong with them, just because they're different in the way they view the world. And if you have to have arguments at the dinner table about religion and politics, spend less time with those people.
Yeah. Well, I already hear what people might say to that is, you do want other people, other opinions. And sure, you can have other opinions. And I think in relationships, of course, you're always going to have other opinions. To me, that's the point of a relationship. Somebody that can share things with me that I'm not aware of or privy to, or I've never considered. Like, why would I be in a relationship with a woman if she can't bring something to the table and round out a perspective I might have? But if it's things that are just non-negotiables, you said that she won't become your wife or that person won't become your business partner. I think the threat is she might actually become your wife because you both do it anyways in spite of red flags.
Yeah. You can have differences of opinions, but your values, they have to be the same. I say compatibility regarding personalities does not mean the same, but values, it means the same. Fernando and I, we have completely different personalities. Super different, but super compatible. Our values are the same though. Not 100%, but 90-ish, whatever percent. We never argue on fundamental things. We never do, really. Now, that doesn't mean that on certain things we don't have disagreement of ideas. And it's funny, I'm a lot more eloquent than she is, but she's like a sniper. I might say 7 things because I'm just talking all day for 7 hours a day when I'm with clients sometimes, but she might say 1 sentence. Wow, that's a perspective I haven't considered. That's amazing. But with my ex-wife, we'd argue about the most fundamental things, and you cannot have a happy relationship if you don't agree on your fundamental values. And politics and religion, they're just a manifestation of where you are in the world.
Do you think this idea of radical honesty, and I've used the word confrontation, I don't know if you'd use that word, because that has a negative connotation to it as well. It seems to me that based on what I've heard you say and just in general, that ability to disagree is actually an attractive quality to women because it's a sign of surety and confidence.
They love it, man. They love it. You can be on a date and just agree the whole time. And agreeing builds comfort, but it doesn't build attraction. If you look at her and she tells you something and you just go, really? She's like, wow! Disagreeing produces a lot of emotional spikes. Because she might say, yeah, astrology. I was like, yeah, that's nonsense. Now, if she actually believes in astrology, you probably would not want to be in a marriage with her anyway. But that put aside. But like, if it's something like that, you just say, no, it's nonsense. Absolutely not. And then you own that. Women want to see that you're a being in space. And it can sometimes even just be a so-called congruence test where she gives you something unforeseen and you're more emotionally calm and grounded and non-reactive or not negatively reactive towards her. It's super attractive because she realizes you're a man. And being a man doesn't mean dominating her or telling her what to do. But it says you have an opinion and you'll share that unapologetically and then you let the cards fall where they may. And it's not about convincing. It's not about trying to make it work. You communicate a value proposition, if you will, and then she either really likes it or she doesn't. There's zero convincing. If she doesn't want it, no problem. Wish you all the best. We can shake hands. I once had this with a lady many years ago where I went on a date with her and within 5 minutes we realized that we're not compatible. I shook her hand and left it. Now, it's funny, right? Years later, she then found one of my videos online. She goes, I went on a date with that guy. It was horrible. It wasn't. We just disagreed on fundamental things. And so that was fine, but it was a respectful interaction nonetheless. Yeah, don't try to make it work with the wrong people. Most people, they'd be so much happier if they stop trying to make it work with people that they're not compatible with. And then take action to meet more new people, talk to men in the gym, talk to women. You've got to be proactive about it.
Yeah. What are some other mistakes that you see a lot of guys make, whether it's on online dating or in the real world? What are some common pitfalls and mistakes you see these guys engaging in?
Yeah, so online dating, get good pictures, professional photography, get somebody to help you with with your outfits, get some lifestyle pictures in there, some social proof, and some status.
So what would social proof be? You in with friends in Rome or something like that? Or like what would social proof be?
Unfortunately, really good social proof has to be women, but not you like a playboy. That's not what the right woman wants. So the right woman doesn't want you to be a playboy, but she still kind of wants to see that she can trust you and that you're desired. So ideally, for example, you're at a wedding. your female cousin here, one, your female cousin two, or you're just in a group of people and there's women around you visibly. It's not necessary for a dating app profile, but it is helpful. It is helpful. And it's not like you sitting there like a pimp. That's not what I'm talking about. But do you have a picture of where you're dancing or where you're giving a speech? It's not necessary, but it helps. It really does. Whether women, the smartest and the most intellectual women, it still triggers something in their brain when they see that you're desired by the women, or at the very least that women are comfortable in your presence. That makes a big difference. Yeah.
What about in the real world? And look, I'm not one to say that the digital isn't real. We're doing this digital. It's a real conversation, but you understand what I mean.
One is they just don't take enough action at all, and they rely on alcohol. They need to cut alcohol or heavily reduce it. It's just the one thing is just volume. Do a lot more approaches in person, use progressive desensitization. And men will do anything to not do an approach. They'll come up with all kinds of excuses. The time, the this, the that, the dating apps, the matchmaking burned 30K because matchmaking is a scam and it doesn't work because their databases are too small. It just, they'll do anything to just not introduce themselves. First thing is just volume, just introduce yourself. Then overshare instead of just asking questions. Tell a little bit of a story. Then, where am I maybe being a bit logical? Really powerful hack for men to improve their verbal game. Watch half an hour of Theo Vaughn or other stand-up comedians or Andrew Schultz, or that is the best ever. You will realize, or Kill Tony, for example, an amazing show in Austin, because you see nowhere else will you get to see objectively funny humor and terrible humor in immediate comparison, and your brain will unconsciously learn the patterns. I'm not joking. I get my clients to watch that show, and it makes them, you don't have to be a comedian, but can you be 20% more fun and lighthearted? Yeah, you can. Fun and lighthearted, not so logical, a little bit of self-deprecation, storytelling, disagreeing, conveying intent, giving her compliments, not too many and not generic, but you have the cutest facial expressions when you're trying to explain something like that, right? It's not about the line, but it's an example. Building a man-to-woman connection. And then 80% of it is mindset, not worrying about losing the wrong woman. Those are a couple of things. Happy to go into more depth into each of those.
Do you feel like men struggle with, let's say, well, you talk about the approach, and I can definitely see a lot of men struggling with that. Do you also find that they struggle with the ask, whether it's, hey, I'd like to take you out, or hey, I'd like to get your number so I can contact you? Like, is that transition a difficult thing for a lot of the clients that you're working with?
Yeah, some just won't. Some will just leave. I'm like, why did you get it?
It's like, you did the hardest part.
Yeah. And then the close is super easy. The ask is just, so you're probably on Instagram, right? Cool. That's it, right? You're probably on Instagram. Okay, cool. Cool, let's exchange numbers. You literally just have to say, let's exchange numbers. We can meet for drinks one of these days. That's it. Ideally, alcohol-free drinks. I'm a fan of no alcohol or very little. You say, yeah, let's meet for drinks one of these days. How cool. Do you have Instagram? Great. And you literally can just say, do you have Instagram? And just, that's it. You just hold it there and they'll know what to do. And Instagram is usually better than just number works, but Instagram is so she can see more attractive things about you, and it will improve the show up rates. It's not necessary, but it helps. It's not about followers. I did that back in the day when I had 400 followers, not 1 million. And if you have a good profile, a couple of good pictures, 9 to 12 good pictures, you post 1 or 2 stories a day, minimum effort, a lot of positive effects. And you just got to do it, because you will miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Just ask. Now, the thing is, society just tells you, just walk up to her and ask for her number. You cannot just ask for the number off the open. That's premature escalation. She doesn't know you. That will work, but you eliminate 99% of options. You actually have to talk to her for 3 to 7 minutes, or 15, or if you're going to have an instant date, that's also fine. But then you say, hey, by the way, you're probably on Instagram, right? Oh, cool. Let's exchange numbers if you want, and we can meet for drinks one of these days. That's it. And then just understand, everybody gets rejected. Everybody. And what matters is your inner dialogue after you get the rejection. Do you tell yourself that you're a worthless ginger and nobody will ever love you? Or do you say, awesome, I did what I can control? Who else here would do that? This guy didn't, because whenever you actually introduce yourself to somebody who's attractive, just know that there's 1,000 men who saw her within the last couple of days who didn't do it.
Yeah, I imagine there's this weird thought that we have in our mind where if she's attractive, she probably gets approached all the time. And maybe that's true. I don't know. Is that true? Or is she getting approached less than you think?
much less than you think during the day. At night, yeah. At night, they get hit on a lot, but during the day, a lot less, right? Unless you live in like Miami or something. But other than there, no, women don't get approached that much. Once a week, maybe, during the day. During the day. Because here's the thing. If you're looking for a wife or a girlfriend, like long-term, nightclubs aren't going to be your best option because 8 out of 10 people that are there are not what you're looking for. Some, but 8 out of 10 aren't. And so during the day, if you want to start conversations, just do it during the day. You go shopping, you go to the Apple store, whatever, right?
Go to the gym, whatever, yeah.
Exactly, amazing. Yeah, in the gym, in your local gym, I would always be a little bit more indirect because if you do an approach in the gym and you want to stay in that gym, then you have to, in my opinion, if you don't want to get a bad reputation, you can't just be the guy who just hits on all the 7 hot women. So I would talk to men and women. Here's the gym strategy. Did we talk about the gym strategy last time we talked?
I think we did. I think you want to be known as the guy who is friendly and talks to everybody. I think I remember talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. So because if you care about your reputation, if you don't care, or you're in a different gym, if you're in a different gym, for example, if you're in Berlin, a gym, and you just see somebody just pretty direct, hey, you're really cute, boom, don't want to interrupt your workout, 3-minute conversation, Instagram, pretty direct, because it doesn't matter. But in your local gym, this sounds stupid, but it works. You can literally just ask her, not in the middle of a set, be calibrated, of course. Would you mind taking a quick video for me for my Instagram story later? And she'll go, okay. So she'll film it. And then you just start a conversation. You offer something. Okay, you work out a lot. Let me get only ever weights, never cardio. Haha, right? A little bit of a conversation. And then you just ask her Instagram. That works. Now, the thing is, next time you got to do it with a dude. And then you do it with a girl, you do it with a guy. Because if somebody sees you, it's just like, just Ryan. You just talk to people. It's fine.
Right.
But in your local gym, you can't just talk to hot women. Because then again, nobody likes somebody who's a taker, who just takes value, You want to offer value. And then if you talk to men, guess what? Like, you'll meet quality male friends in the gym.
Yeah, I have. It is fascinating too, because I talk with a lot of guys who are like, yeah, I just want to meet some guy friends.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool. Well, where do you think they are? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, they're at the gym. Okay, you want to hang out with guys who go to the gym.
Yeah.
Well, why? Because they're disciplined, they're dedicated, they're committed, they're fit. Like they're successful, not exclusively, but the odds are that those people are more likely to be those characteristics. And it's always interesting.
Sorry, I was just going to add, you can also go to a little bit more of an expensive gym if you can afford it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I had a guy who very successful, and he got into cycling during the day because he wanted to meet other men who were very successful. And he's like, these guys are all cyclists and they're doing it in the day. And he was the youngest guy there. And people would always ask him what he did for work because he's with these 65, 70-year-old, very successful men cycling in the middle of the day. And he's like, that's where they are. So that's what I do. It was very interesting.
That's genius. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the approach, approach sounds weird with a guy, but it's very simply like, hey man, like, I'm trying to get big biceps or bigger legs, and you look like you've got a good physique and you know what you're doing. You mind giving me a couple of pointers? It's so easy, but I do not know why we complicate this so much. We make the stakes too high, I think.
Exactly. And people haven't been taught. Nobody just told men that they can do this. Hey, you can just go and talk to the gym. And they don't understand why it matters. Because I believe intelligent men, before they do something, they have to understand why it matters. That's why when people go to Andrew Huberman's YouTube channel and they watch the 2 to 3 hour presentation on what alcohol does to your brain, you're much more likely to reduce your alcohol consumption a lot because you understand it's a neurotoxin, it's a group A carcinogen, it fosters the growth of 5 to 6 different types of cancer cells. It's a depressant. It reduces testosterone. Oh, wow. Yeah, so they need to understand why it matters. So you need to spend time with quality male friends because Johann Hari says the number one reason for anxiety and depression, lost connections, is a lack of quality social contact. A lack of quality social contact is the number one thing. And especially over the last couple of years, people have been so isolated. You need to spend, and people think they spend a lot of time with men. No, you need it every day. Or several days a week. It's very important for you. If you want optimal levels of happiness, spend time with quality men and cut out the wrong ones that make you feel bad. It sounds so stupid, but if you listen to your gut, they now know that there is a mini brain in your gut. There's nerve cells in your gut intelligence, heart intelligence. If you learn to listen to that, do you feel like spending time with that person or not? That feeling is right. Listen to that more.
Yeah, that's interesting. You said something about intelligent men needing to know the why. I think I've seen some videos and some content you've put out there that suggest, tell me if I'm wrong on this, but suggest that hyper intelligent men sometimes have a harder time figuring out ways to connect with women because they tend to overthink. They can't be lighthearted and play. They take things way too seriously. I mean, I imagine there's a whole litany of reasons that is. Is that true that you found that to be true?
Yes, but it's just a pattern that they can easily change. Because
Sure.
for example, what does being self-conscious mean? It means my focus is on myself as opposed to the other person. You need to become other conscious. You can literally turn your attention outwards, and in that moment, you're not self-conscious anymore. You're other conscious, if you will. I'm overthinking. Okay, what's the opposite of overthinking? Take an action. So these are just habits. Oh, asking questions, sharing, being logical, being fun and lighthearted. Now you need humor. How do I learn that? Okay, well, stand-up comedy. They're just habits. You're absolutely right. I agree. A lot of the time, I've worked with a lot of guys who are really, really successful, really intelligent, and sometimes they get stuck in their head, and sometimes they have a hard time connecting. But it's just patterns. It's not who we are. I have a core belief. There's no pattern that is you, truly part of who you are, that you need to keep. You can just change the patterns that limit you. I think so. In those ways, it's just communication. It's not becoming. Now, I will never like cooking. Fine. Is that a limitation? Maybe you couldn't give a fuck. Right? Don't care. But that's not a pattern. But in terms of if there's an outcome you want and freedom of expression, being free in your expression, what does it mean? I have a thought and I'm going to say it. Okay. Because most men have thoughts. They have a little inkling and then they suppress it. Because that's what they've been trying to do in their business or in their career. They have a thought, couldn't say that, or need to change that, need to filter that. They have so many layers on themselves that prevent them from connecting. And that's a process that needs to be removed. And when you remove those, then you become free in your expression and lighthearted. And then it becomes easy to be around people. And then I say you trade the width for the depth. Now, you still need a lot of people. You still need to meet a lot more people than you think. But then you go deep because it's easy to be around the right people. There's a saying, obviously you can make a counter argument to it, but there's still truth in it. You can't say the wrong thing to the right person. Obviously you can in a way, but largely it's very difficult to offend somebody who you're really compatible with,
Well, and usually even if you do, a person that you're compatible with I think I saw this from the Gottman Institute that there was two primary predictors of long-term relational success. Number one was kissing each other and saying goodbye when you leave the house in the morning. And the other one was deliberately making a choice to see the best in your partner and give them the benefit of the doubt. Just a choice. Yeah. You said that like an asshole, but I also still love you. And I know you're convicted and see the positive in that rather than the negative.
100%. One of the biggest qualification criteria you should look for in the right woman is the assumption of positive intent. Because people who aren't right for you, they will by default assume negative intent. We're all going to do both at some point. But is your default to assume positive intent or negative intent? Are you easily offended? Yeah, assuming positive intent, crucial.
Yeah. Well, this has been fascinating. There's always so much that we can go through. And I know, guys, the last time we had a conversation, I looked, it was a little over 2 years ago. Did really, really well. I think guys are fascinated with this discussion and conversation. I like the psychological side of it as well, because I don't think that the things that you teach apply exclusively to just being in the dating space. I think they apply in the boardroom and in friendships and in family dynamics with children, for example. Obviously not that romantic appeal or interest, but there's still things that you're teaching that apply very, very broadly. And that's what I appreciate about what you do.
Yeah, man. No, thank you so much. It's always fun. Yeah, I remember like 2-ish years ago or something like that. It was an awesome conversation. Right on there. No, man, so much respect for what you do as well, and really enjoy it always. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Well, tell the guys how to connect with you, and we'll get them over your way if they're interested.
Yeah, I think we have a YouTube channel with my name, David Meessen. We have an Instagram page. We have a much smaller podcast on Spotify that they can check out. Yeah, those are things.
I've seen your account grow on Instagram specifically, and probably YouTube as well. I don't spend much time over there, but I've seen your account grow over the past couple of years, just astronomically. And I can't help but think, man, the quality of what you guys put out, you and your fiance, Fernanda, is that her name?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love your guys' energy together and the way that you feed off of each other. It's actually a really cool relationship dynamic to see in real time. But guys, check it out. You'll love it. You won't be disappointed, and he's going to help you on your romantic relationships. Thank you, David. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you so much.